Well, hello once again. Yes, this is me, Leonard Wells, broadcasting as usual from HASLINGDEN, 30 miles or 50 kilometres due north of Manchester in the UK, on Sunday the 11th of December 2011. In May last year, the people of the United Kingdom, for the first time and sensibly, did not vote in a single party to the House of Commons and to form the British government, which has always happened in the past. And as a result, we now have a coalition government. A coalition between the Liberals, who in the European scene are pro-Europe, and the Conservatives, who are largely in the middle. The majority don't seem to care very much, and a vociferous minority of Conservatives are dyed-in-the-wool Eurosceptics, and as far as I'm concerned, they should push off somewhere. Well, when the election result was announced, it was my gut feeling that the Liberals ought to form a coalition with the Labour Party. Now, the figures made it very, very difficult, but we've been through equally difficult periods when we had the Lib-Lab Pact, when David Steele, leading the Liberals, supported the Callaghan government. And it was the separation when the Liberals pulled out and forced Mr. Callaghan to have an election, which brought Mrs. Thatcher to power. Now, as I say, my gut feeling was that the Liberals ought to unite with the Labour Party, because they'd always been anti-conservative. So I was very disappointed and surprised and puzzled when they announced that they would have a coalition with the Conservatives. And many people that I met, that I've spoken to, were very, very, very disappointed when the Liberals, as part of this coalition, supported the introduction of expensive university education. They were against increasing the fees for university education in their manifesto, and yet here they were supporting this scheme of the Conservatives, which would mean that anybody who went to university would end up in debt. Whether they liked it or not, they would end up in debt, unless, of course, their family were rich and they could pay their fees without having to borrow them. Well, running your life on a method of borrowing isn't a good idea. Credit cards and overdrafts, always better to pay your own way. So, when the other day Mr. Cameron vetoed or decided not to sign up with our 26 partners in the EU to the proposed necessary changes to help the Eurozone, I was rather surprised that Mr. Clegg appeared to support that. And then this morning we hear that he doesn't in fact support it, that he has a heavy heart. Well, that pleases me, that cheers me no end. And I would very much like to see the Liberals pull out of the coalition and let us have a general election. The problem is that in this country it wouldn't be a fair election, apart from the crazy voting system we have. And just to give you one example of how crazy it is, every MP in the county of Surrey is a Conservative MP, and yet 50% of the population vote Labour rather. Isn't that rather strange? What kind of democracy is that? Anyway, I'd like to see them call an election. But as I say, the problem is this, that a great deal of our media, particularly the press, is anti-Europe. What would happen would be the election would become one issue, Europe. And in the present climate, with austerity in the air, we would probably find that the voices against Europe would be in the majority. Well, I'd like to see a Labour government come back. Yes, I know the Conservatives keep saying it was their fault that we got into this financial mess. Well, I don't blame them in toto. If necessary, a Labour government with Liberal support. But Mr. Brown, for all his faults, steered us through a very, very difficult time when the banks collapsed. So it pleased me, as I say, to hear this morning that Mr.Clegg no longer feels he can support the Conservative leader's view on Europe. And I'm hoping that the coalition will now collapse, that we will have an election, and that, God willing, somehow we will bring in a party which will eventually make university education free. It may not be possible to do that. My own opinion is that we should simply have free university education for our people, but everybody who gets a degree, who didn't pay their fees at university, should pay an additional 1% income tax for the rest of their lives, when they're liable to income tax. Now that wouldn't be painful. You would hardly notice it, but it would, over the years, recoup what had been invested. Nothing that's free is really, truly appreciated. So I think that's a good midway possibility of giving us free education with an element of paying for it. So 3 cheers for Mr. Clegg. He's woken up at last. He said it when he awoke this morning, he couldn't accept the way the Conservative leader was steering the boat. So that's it for Sunday. I've got a feeling I will want to talk more later today, because today is the beginning of a momentous period in Europe, and we need cool, calm, collective leadership, because my dream, my belief for the future is a United States of Europe. A United States of Europe. We've got a parliament. We elect MEPs. But you see, in this country, the government doesn't even talk about it hardly. We're sort of in a golf club, but we play with our own size ball. I doubt if they even teach children at school what the European Parliament means. But we need to do it properly. Become like the United States of America. and elect a president. Then we would be the greatest power on earth, greater by far than America or China or Russia, perhaps not militarily. Already the EU, the 27 countries in the EU, have a GDP, a gross domestic product, almost the equal of the United States of America and China combined. So when you hear about the wonders of China and its economy, it's poppycock, it's twaddle, it's balderdash. So that's my dream. Cheerio for now. God bless, while it's still legal in the UK to say God bless. Take care.